So, hey folks, this is me, Vishwas, and I'm the host of this podcast. A lot of times we have realized one thing: infrastructure as a code came in as a blessing, but yet it also has its own challenges to be solved. And of course, it comes with its own package of advantages and disadvantages. Leave the fact that it really changed the way we are provisioning infrastructure today. It's just a set of a groovy kind of a code using Terraform, or any other infrastructure as a code platform, which can be JSON or any other domain specific language. But it's changing the way we provision an infrastructure. And somewhere down the line, we miss out on some good and the best practices that we think should be followed. And sometimes we just are like, okay, fine, it's a new technology. Everybody makes mistakes. So here I'm with Hila, who is a DevOps engineer at Wix. And also, not just that, she has been one of the most influential people that I saw on the internet with respect to Terraform. And anything related to something on Terraform, she pops up. I don't know why. And that's the amount of influence that she has brought up in the market. And thank you so much, Hila, for being on the show. It means a lot.
Sure, thanks for inviting me.
Yep. So let's just start with our first question. Basically Terraform really came and people started strategizing the cloud adoption in a different form factor. That means everybody wanted anything and everything to be visible and things like that. So where should we start when we strategize IAC, infrastructure as a cloud, and how can we reduce cloud misconfiguration? Because both of these two things are going hand in hand with respect to strategizing IAC and reducing misconfigurations.
Yeah, so I think that even if you're a startup, you still, you want to grow, right? You want to make sure that if the company succeeds and you need to scale, either scaling your infrastructure or scaling your teams, you want to allow that. You want to make sure that any setups that you currently make or currently doing will allow you to scale accordingly, and not just, okay, let's start ad hoc and then, oh, now we need to scale. Okay, so let's change everything. So instead of starting as ad hoc and then switching to scale when the need arises, you can start structuring the Terraform code base in a way that will allow you to auto scale later on. So basically, that's what I would recommend anyone to not think about Terraform as an ad hoc tool, like I need to create a machine here or I need to do this and that, but really strategize how the company sees the pain points and the current use cases now, and then build the infrastructure accordingly and Terraform code base accordingly to allow you to scale if you need. Because Terraform, you can start with small, you can then enlarge as you see fit. But if you structure it in a way that will allow you to do that using modules and using the structure itself to enable teams scaling, for example, then it will help you utilize Terraform in the best way possible.
Sure. And also, there is a lot of best use cases in delivering accessibility using Terraform, right? Terraform gave a new dimension for whatever we are thinking cloud today. So, what is it all about when there is a best use case of delivering accessibility of solutions using Terraform? Because Terraform not just works as an IAC tool, but it's also as an intent as tool. And of course, there are a lot of chaos engineering strategies that is getting built. So how are these tools like Terraform or anything related to IAC helping us in strategizing, load testing, as well as chaos?
So it really depends on what we on what you need, but I would say that even though the best practice is to execute Terraform remotely, because you need to work with a team, you want to make sure that Terraform state is remotely and secured and stuff, but you still have the ability to run Terraform locally and see if things behave as expected. So I would say that for production workloads, use the Terraform execution remotely. But if you need to test some stuff out with workspaces or any other sort of implementation that you can think of, it's okay to execute locally. It's not saying that, hey, it's not good because you're local and you're not doing it right. Because you're utilizing Terraform's features, as you can say, based on the current needs. So for production, remote, but if you need to test out some stuff, just run locally, and that's basically it. So this is like generally speaking for Terraform. But other than that, yeah, there are tools that help you with tests. I haven't done it myself actually, but for example, there is TerraTest that helps you to utilize tests in Terraform. You can also use Chekhov, which is an open source tool that allows you to have like built-in flags that if some things needed to be checked, like security or other things, then you can have them in line in the code, and then your CI will execute the test based on the flags that you put. So there are options and things that can be done and set in place in order to make sure that tests are done also in Terraform, but also have in mind that it's okay to run locally to test some stuff if it behaves as expected or not. So yeah, that's good.
So let's just come to this back to basics question. So, what was your first introduction to the world of DevOps? Like, of course, you have given a lot of talks on Terraform and things like that, but I would love to know what was your first introduction to the world of DevOps?
So I started as a system engineer, and back then system engineers were the people that they are the production gatekeepers. And then when developers come and say, "Hey, we want to do stuff," system engineers usually say no. No, we have a certain release time. We need to do things in a certain way, blah blah blah. And that's where DevOps came to play. It's like saying, okay, you don't say no anymore, you say yes. You want to enable the developers to do what they need because it is the best interest of the company. The company wants to move ahead and run forward. And if you keep saying no, then the company will be stuck in a bottleneck of, hey, we want to do things, but we can't because ABC. So I would say that DevOps came to play in that setting in which we don't want to say no anymore. We want to say yes. We want to enable developers to do whatever they need. And that's why DevOps like invented, right? It's Dev and Ops coming together. So that's how I started. I'm very service oriented. I really like to help people. And I noticed that as a system engineer, it's like I'm encouraged to say no. It's like, yeah, put some hurdles, put obstacles. I'm like, no, but I want to help them. It's not that they do it for out of spite or something. They want to do it because they want to progress with their tasks. So why shouldn't I enable them to progress with their tasks? And then I heard of the DevOps culture, and I said, wow, this is right up my alley. It's all about collaboration. It's all about enabling people to do their thing, and that's why I switched to DevOps culture, and it's awesome.
Sure, sure. So now there is a lot of chaos that goes behind when we are talking cost, performance optimization, but we are also saying visibility of the infrastructure. And everything is changing in the world of complex misconfigurations that are coming up in the market. So it's something like, hey, let's go Terraform, let's go serverless, let's go anything and everything technology that is just coming up in the market. So how should we understand a well architected framework and how should we move in practicing it right?
So like I say, people say, right, Kubernetes, and hey, let's move to Kubernetes and let's adopt it and blah, blah, blah. And they don't really take a step back to see if the company's needs and the application behavior is really adapted to Kubernetes. Maybe we don't need it in this phase. Maybe, the company is too small and we don't really need to scale because the 2 or 3 servers that we have already serve the relevant traffic that we have. So don't move to Kubernetes just because this is the buzz and everyone is using it. We need to always think about the application use cases and scenarios and the company's pain points and understand what is the main goal, and then choose the technology based on that. So not choose the technology first and then try to fit it to the company, but understand what the company needs and then choose the technology that suits best.
So now we talk about a lot of things that is covering anti-patterns. So there's a lot of anti-patterns, and also there are practices that are going in the world of DevOps that we really don't want to have in our infrastructure, also have in the DevOps culture that we are already building. So how can a tool like Terraform or else a company like HashiCorp make a lot of impact in getting those anti-types out of our DevOps culture? And also, how can any tool be influential in impacting somebody's DevOps culture in any organization?
So Terraform has like I wouldn't say bundle, but there are tools that help you avoid misconfigurations. So you can use InfraCost, which is an open source tool that helps you detect changes in the cost management whenever you add more resources, or even do any changes in the Terraform code, and then it shows you, hey, the impact is X, and then maybe you didn't expect that. So InfraCost could be very helpful in this manner. And also TF-Lint, if you run, that's why having Terraform execution being remote is good, because you can incorporate tests like, basically I like to call it practices enforcement, and run tests in order to make sure that the code is in a high quality and that there are no misconfigurations like putting secrets in clear text and stuff like that. So there's TF-Lint and TF-Sec and a lot of tools that you can use and incorporate in the PR review in order to make sure that you don't push code that is not in a certain quality. So these tools help you basically set up guardrails that necessarily you don't have them in mind, like as a person, like in your mindset, but at least you have these tools that help you set these guardrails that help you make sure the code is in high quality and have little to no misconfigurations.
Oh, Wix is also dealing with scale. Wix is also dealing with scale every single day. The problem of scale always comes into the picture. And of course, you as a DevOps engineer need to strategize how my system is going to scale when there's a hike in the traffic, when there's no hike in the traffic, how it should scale down and things like that. So, what is the definition of scale that is changing? And the next question will be like, how can a tool like Terraform really make an impact when we think scale?
So scale in general, I mean, we have the cloud providers like AWS, they have services that help you with that, right? Like auto scaling. This is like the classic usage, because you define certain conditions, and then based on these conditions, AWS decide whether to bump up the nodes and applications or not. So utilizing whatever the cloud providers can give you is a good way and good practice, because they know best, right? And they give you the platform to check based on your conditions, and then scale accordingly. So this is in general about scale. In specific to Terraform, the way to scale is basically with utilizing models whenever possible, and making I mean, I usually love to use the community models because they are very well tested, and a lot of people already using it in production, and they cover a lot of use cases. But if you can't find a community model that fits your use case, then build a custom model, but still have it as generic as possible to allow other people to use it, other teams, and B, to be like adjusted to your use cases when along the way. So making the models as generic as possible is a good approach. And structuring the Terraform code base will also allow you to prepare for scale, because I also talked about it in my Terraform talk, that if you structure the code base itself to start, like the top tier is a team, and then project, and a cloud provider and region, then you can onboard new teams to the same Terraform repo, and then anyone can use references from other teams to see what they did and how they implemented things. And also you can really have like a PR process that is independent, right? Because if it is based on team, then each team is responsible for their own code, and then they can be independent and do whatever they want. And of course, since we have one repository, then all teams are in the live side. And when I say live, I mean where we call the models, and then we have the models. And when we change models, then since they are touching like they are the baseline, so other teams using the models, then there the PR review consists of several approvals to make sure that changes that are done doesn't affect in a bad way other teams. So we have like representatives from several teams to make sure that models were changed in a way that wouldn't affect people in a bad way. So so that's the thing. You can create a code, the Terraform code as is, or you can create it in a way, in a structure that starts with a team, and then whatever team that comes or gets like established in your company can onboard to Terraform, use it, use references from the same repo, and use the models that all others use. So we have usage of models throughout several teams. So it is basically from one side it's generic, but from the other side it's aligned, right? Because everyone uses the same models. So that's basically good. And this is the way to go to scale, because no matter how many teams we will have, everyone uses it the same way. And since we have the practices enforcement, the GitHub actions that check for the high quality of the code, and to make sure, for example, that tags were added, because it's very, very important. Tags is like the baseline for cost management. So if someone doesn't add tags, the PR will fail, because we want to make sure tags are always added. So if we have practices enforcement in place and we have a structure that enables us to onboard new teams, then this is the road to scale is very smooth.
Thank you so much, Hila, for such great insights. I think this kind of has insights from Wix as well. I think Wix also has these kind of platforms. And I think thank you so much for such great insights, and see you soon, because I would love to invite you for an IAC talk or anything like that from Devtron community, and it would be an honor doing a webinar from your side. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Sure, let's end the